Hi everybody, it's Owen from farpoint.org. Thought I'd give a run through of a battle myself and Phil played yesterday. This is a game of Saga, a 6 point game using the escort scenario. Phil played the Anglo-Danish at the bottom of the screen there. So in his 6 point warband, he had the Warlord, a small unit of Dane axes you can see to the left of the mounted Warlord, a unit of Gaburs, who are the guys with the bow and arrows, 2 units of Kjorls, who are on the left and right flanks, and then a unit of Huskarls in the middle there. In this scenario, you're trying to bring baggage pieces up to the top of the board, which is about 6 inches from the top of the board because this is a 4x4 rather than a 4x3. Um, in our particular scenario, we said that they were family members of a nearby noble who were being escorted out of the path of a larger Viking army. My Viking warband at the top then is trying to stop them. I had the Warlord, 3 units of Bondi, and then I have 2 units of Herdmen. So the Bondi are spear armed, just in the images here, and the Herdmen are armed with the axes. So Phil gets the first turn, and on that turn he pushes everything up as aggressively as he can. Um, as you can see, he starts pushing up the right flank, keeps things fairly steady on the left, and then pushes up the middle. In response, then I move down a little bit and shuffle around some of the units. Had my battle board a little bit loaded on some defensive abilities, particularly against some of the shooting that might come in the middle. But again, not an awful lot of action. We end up in a kind of a tense standoff that was really quite strategic. So here you can see Phil has pushed up fairly aggressively on the right and continued to push through the middle. The Dane axes are getting left behind slightly. He also used one of his battleboard abilities, Trapped. So you can see fatigue on 3 of my units. And the nice thing about the Trapped ability, it's expensive in the sense it uses 2 rare dice. But 3 enemy units get a fatigue added. And fatigue is the name of the game in Saga. Because it impacts the ability of a unit to fight, impacts their armor, can slow them down. It's really quite powerful. So in response, I tried to clear off as much of the fatigue as I could. So luckily enough, I rolled a rare on my roll, and that allows me to use the Njord ability with my Warlord. So he can remove one fatigue from every friendly unit within M of him. So it allowed me to clear up the fatigue on the right hand side and get set for whatever assault might come there. I didn't shuffle too far forward. I just wanted to have a bit of a defensive line. Also to be cautious that I didn't overcommit to one side, though at the moment the right of the image is looking a little bit heavy for the Vikings. Phil continues to push up. As you can see, that the Huskarls are getting into position in the middle there, or just to the right of middle, and things are about to kick off. So on the right hand side, I pushed my Bondi down into his Kjorls, pushing them back, exposing the family member that they were transporting up the side. So that was the first blood to the Vikings. In response, Phil moved his Huskarls from the centre, or just right of centre across, and hit that unit pretty hard. You can see there's only 2 of those Bondi left, and quite a large unit of Huskarls now kind of menacingly hidden behind that rock. So I'd have to do my best to try and respond to that. So I pushed my Herdman down using the Frig ability, which is really quite a nice ability that allows me to remove a fatigue from one of my units. So if you move a unit, that's fine, they don't gain any additional fatigue. If you move them again, they must move to engage if they're within a short distance of an enemy unit. Once they engage, then I can use the Frig ability. It's a melee activated ability, and that allows me to remove 1 fatigue from any one of your units engaged in that melee. So even though they get pushed further, they gain a fatigue, they then lose that fatigue. The unit did okay. I think I killed 4 Huskarls, they killed 3 back, so I just about won that melee, pushing the Huskarls back, and both units then gain a fatigue for being in melee. So while I pushed them back, it hurt me quite a lot to do so. So Phil shuffled a little bit on the right flank, moved the Huscarls kind of back into a threatening position, but really started to push on the left hand side. He pushed his archers up and they killed a couple of guys at range. Then his Kjarls on the left slammed into my Bondi, but they actually bounced. He, I think, killed maybe one, and I killed two, so they bounced back a little bit. But all of a sudden, the left hand side of the board is looking quite unstable for me. So I pushed hard with the Huscarls, which were over that, or the Herdmen, sorry, which were over that side. They went into the Gaburs, the archer guys, and pushed them back. So a reasonably good move there. On the right hand side, managed to kill off the remainder of the Huscarls who were hidden around that rock. And then I pushed back my Bondi, the two guys who are there kind of left in that unit. Really, I'm trying to prevent Phil from making a mad dash with the family member up to safety, because 2, maybe 3 activations would definitely do it, because he wouldn't care about the fatigue. With 2-inch reach and melee, I can prevent him from essentially entering and then leaving my melee range. So that's why they're gathered up there with the Warlord. But the Viking line is starting to look a little bit thin. And on Phil's turn, he made it look a whole lot thinner. He took a fairly brave decision to put his Warlord into the fight against my Herdman, and he killed 3 of them, pushed them back, and the unit of Kjarls over there pushed back my Bondi as well. So all of a sudden I've 5 guys standing there against quite a horde of Anglo-Danes. So things were looking really quite critical on the left. Right's not looking a whole lot better. And I don't know. My dice got unlucky, but that unit of herdmen who were just at the back of the hill went in against the Bondi. The odds were good, but they were killed to a man. So that really hurt. I should have kept them in a defensive position. It was not the right move to push them in aggressively. This is a defensive game for the Vikings. On the right hand side, the Warlord pushed in against the unit of Kjarls that had with the reduced unit of Kjarls that were around the family member, killed 2 of them, pushed them back, hoping next turn that I could slaughter the family member. And as you can see, Phil pushed up on the left hand side, killed off the remaining Bondi, and now the left side is completely open. So the game is coming to a close here, because he just needs to get 2 of those pieces up and he's effectively won the game. So I pushed my Bondi across as aggressively as I could. During this game, Phil made really good use of the intimidation ability that the Anglo-Danish have. So this is after an opponent has spent a dice. It's an activation reaction. He can basically use that ability to just cancel that activation. It's really, really powerful. So it meant for a lot of the game I was doubling up on my dice for activating different types of units, just in fear that he would just cancel one. So I got those Bondi across as well as I could. Warlord again tried to kill the family member, but failed. So as Warlords go, my Viking Warlord wasn't all that good. Phil made a really brave and effective push with his Danaxes, who had been kind of languishing, not really getting into the battle, but he pushed them right up into my Bondi, I think, after the Warlord had charged in on a couple of them, and that unit was wiped out. So now the left hand side is completely open for those family members to make it off, and Phil started to push them up a little bit. And the game pretty much ended here. I think there was one more turn for Phil, but on the right hand side my Warlord did finally manage to capture, well, kill or capture that family member, but the left is completely open, so Phil made the dash. I think there was a bit of a crazy melee on the right hand side, with a Kjarl and a Bondi facing off against each other and effectively doing nothing, but the game was over here. Phil had successfully gotten his family members up past the edge of the board, which was more or less 6 inches down from the top of the screen there. So really good game, really good fun. It's the first game of just a 2-game campaign. So in the next game, we're going to use the challenge rules and challenge scenario. And in that scenario, I have one family member as the Viking player. Phil has two. I'll use that captive essentially to get one additional saga dice on a particular turn, and Phil can use his two to get one on different turns or two on a single turn, and that's it. So a nice little advantage that winning or losing this scenario brings. So that's it. So thanks for watching, everybody.